Hey everyone, I am here with Stephania, as you guys may remember from previous interview, and Sarah from TikTok.
Sarah from TikTok.
That's where I know you from, Sarah. I've been following you on there for a while. Um, I think that one of the first videos I saw of you, I think you were sitting on um, either your front porch or something like that, talking about autism and your own late diagnosis.
Yes.
Um, So when someone watches a video and likes or comments, you watch it back and try to understand how they perceive you in the video.
Oh, that was the one you saw. Yes. Uh-huh.
I right before this, I actually went back and rewatched a few of your videos
hmm
so that I could prepare a little bit better for this interview. Tell me like what goes through your mind and stuff whenever that is the case.
Well, for me being a late diagnosed autistic woman, I have high masking tendencies. And so I have, a mask that I put on and it can be stressful in situations like online or just places where you don't know how people are going to like perceive your mask and receive it. And everybody, another common experience is that we put on a mask depending on, who we are with, the environment we're in, all of these things. And so those factors online are, you don't have that information, you don't know who's watching, you don't, and all these things. But yeah, when someone that I do know watches, I can kind of think about, um, the mask that I would present in front of them that they would accept. Is this a person that I like cuss in front of or not? Is this a person that and there's so many factors to a mask. But so it's having someone watch it back and going, did the mask match the one that I would normally have like given them, or did they just experience a different one? So now I have anxiety over that, you know?
Much of the same thing. Whether it be on Facebook when I post something, somebody
Mhm.
likes it, I'll go back and I'll reread it. Or if
Yeah.
somebody I know likes one of my videos on TikTok or
hmm
YouTube or whatever, I'll go back and rewatch it.
Yep.
And sometimes if I'm just getting like a bunch of negative comments, I'll watch it over and over and over, trying to process what they
What it
saw
is.
negative about it. And so a
Yeah.
lot of times I'll just delete it, whether it be
Same.
a post on Facebook or whatever. Or
hmm
if nobody comments on a post, I'll read it like multiple
You're
times.
analyzing it why
Yeah,
nobody interacted. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So I watched another video of yours where you're talking about hearing the electricity running through the walls.
Yeah.
And this seems to be very common for many of us neurodivergents, right?
Yes.
I know I don't really hear it to a great extent, but
hmm
like if I'm passing by outside a house where a TV's on, I can absolutely I don't really hear it, but I feel it. And there's almost like a small ringing.
hmm Yeah. It's just that electric static almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like,
Sometimes I can even just feel it in my body, like if the TV's on.
yeah. Like you don't even have to hear it or see it. You know someone has a TV on in the house, right?
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
summer times when we have our window air conditioner units in, um, occasionally it'll make this really, it's not really a high pitch, but it's like a pulse
hmm
and it'll drive me nuts. I'll be laying there trying to sleep
Yes. There's
and
so
I'll,
many people are like, I didn't know what the noise was and it kept me up and I had to figure it out and it was like something plugged into my wall. Um, yeah, I think it's just a very common experience, but I guess goes hand in hand with a highly sensitive nervous system,
yeah.
you
And
know?
I'll ask my wife, I'm like, don't you hear that? And she's like, no, I don't hear anything other than just the regular sound of the air conditioner. And I'm
hmm
going crazy trying to like hitting on it and everything, trying to stop the pulse because it doesn't do it all the time, right? It's just
hmm
like when I'm trying to get settled in bed.
Yeah.
So, how does the electricity running through the walls and stuff like that, how does that sound to you?
I mean, it just like I said, it kind of sounds like a hum or static to me. Um, and then like I don't know how to, but physically there's like a heaviness or like a it's almost like there's a fog or a cloud in the room or something that I can feel when like everything's turned on. It just feels staticky. I don't know.
Tania, does your son ever indicate that he can kind of hear or sense the electricity in objects and stuff?
He's not with not because he's still since he's pretty nonverbal still, not to that extent. And then if it's happening, I'm probably unaware of it. I mean, since he struggles with communication, I'm sure there's time he's throwing attention where it's, something that's bothering him that he can't explain. But
Mhm.
the things that you guys are talking about definitely makes me think about how he started this new thing now when we're going to bed. He knows what light means. So he's like, light, and I have to go and put a towel over the time on the stove because he could still see that too. Because I live in
Yes,
a
that light will
studio.
keep him up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Every light needs to be off. So a
There's
lot of
people,
times,
yes.
yeah, when I'm with parents and they're like, they talk about being scared of the dark. I'm like, yeah, not my son.
Am
The
I?
light bothers him.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, people like even on like the littlest light on a sound machine or on anything, people are like, I put tape over it because
Yeah. I
it'll
had
just
a,
bother them. But what's really cool is that we actually have sensors in like our skin that detect light.
oh,
And so our skin can like especially
yeah.
extrareceptive nervous systems, I feel like they're just highly sensitive, highly receptive, and maybe that could be part of it, but our skin can
Yeah.
see light. So
I believe
I think
it
that's pretty
because
fascinating.
yeah, I remember my son for the longest time was struggling with sleeping at night. I remember doing research and learning that that's also like an autistic trait, I guess, but I don't know because I'm still learning and like Shannon
Yep.
has been teaching me along too with, some of the stigmas and stuff. Not stigma, what was it? Myth
Mm.
that. And so, yeah, I saw about them having some nighttime problems with sleep and my fan that I had at the time had a blue light that it would spin though the fan, and I'm not sure if it was the light or something that just woke him up in the middle of the night, but it was like stress because nighttime was my time to do homework. So right when I put him to sleep, I'm like, okay, I'm like hyper focused on my homework, and the minute he comes, it's really hard to get me to do my homework again, and it
Hmm.
was a constant me having to go back and lay with him and put him to sleep and act like try to like sneak out any little thing. It could have been noises, yeah, light. He woke up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Hmm.
he's so much better now. And I think he does sleep, like he still sleeps much better like being cuddled, but like when he's alone now, he's doing much better. But before he goes to bed, like I had a friend visit from, I'm in North Carolina. I had a friend visit from New Hampshire, and she was, when I was putting my son to bed, she was, we're in the studio. She's sitting on a beanbag on her phone, and I'm like, and she's on the phone talking, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna put him to sleep now. He won't be able to if you're talking. And then she's like, oh, okay. So then she hangs up, but then she's on her phone and the light's on. And I'm like, hey, so he actually can't sleep with your light on. And then she's like, oh, okay. So she turns it off. And then he was still up staring at her because he knows she's there. So I'm like, so you're gonna have to lay with us on the bed because he's not gonna go to sleep unless because he knows you're there. So
Yeah.
like every little thing.
Yeah.
So and a lot of people, yeah, talking about like culture thing and just like, the wanting to bring more advocacy and acceptance. A lot of people like think you're babying them, but it's like
Hmm.
this is just how they work. Like
Yeah.
we gotta do it like that.
Yes. Or it's a
Yeah.
meltdown that lasts for 30, 40
Yeah.
minutes.
And
And
then now I can't get up and do my homework and
there,
do the things I gotta do.
yes. These are the steps we have to take so I can get back to doing
Yes.
what I have to do.
It takes patience. I get it.
Yes.
Like, but
Yeah.
let's if the sooner we do it, the more we can be the sooner we
Hmm.
can be
I
done.
feel like that's really difficult too, especially with like parents, that are discovering their own kids' neurodivergence
Yeah.
too, at later ages, like 5, 6, 7, because a lot of their behaviors are, there's the definite reason behind the behavior. And so trying to figure out the reason can be really difficult, especially if you don't have like the understanding of their neurodivergence, because it really does change the entire game and then the entire way that you
Mhm.
have to approach parenting and
Yeah.
everything. Neurotypical advice doesn't work. So,
Mm-mm.
yeah.
And thankfully, like this friend that I had, like she just came and like did all those things that I
She
said.
was
But
just
there
there
are,
for it. Yeah.
yeah, she just did. She's like, okay, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, grateful for that. There
Hmm.
are people though that I have run into that, they're just not understanding, or they think that, you have to teach them this way and they'll get used to it. Like growing up, I
Yes.
always learned like you gotta have them sleep with noises in the back and lights so they're used to.
Yes.
Especially like nap time. My baby never did naps. Like when he
Yep.
was like under one, after that, they say that
Hmm.
they still do naps as a toddler. Mine didn't. Mine could
Yep.
not correlate daytime and sleeping.
Hmm. Yep. I
Your
get
friend
that.
did. That is neuroaffirming care, right? And that
Yeah.
is the biggest thing for us neurodivergents is
100%.
people who get it and
Hmm.
understand.
Yeah.
My son was diagnosed autistic about the same time I was,
Hmm.
and he was nonverbal for few years early on.
Hmm.
He started talking and then he regressed, and then I would have my older sister would post a indirect comment on her Facebook. If your son is such and such years old and not talking,
Oh,
I was
I'm
like,
sorry.
yeah. And I was like, okay, first, there's nothing wrong with him.
Yeah.
Second, we do plan on getting him into speech therapy.
Hmm.
We just have to wait for a referral from a teacher.
Hmm.
Fortunately, my stepmother-in-law is it was a teacher at the time, and so she was putting in a referral right before my sister posted this.
Hmm.
And it's like, you don't have to tell us anything we don't already know.
Yes.
And if there is something going on, that doesn't make him any different than, who he is to us right now.
Right.
So you talked in a recent post about one of your children receiving their diagnosis, right?
Hmm. Yes.
And then the doctor recommending occupational therapy and ABA therapy. Tell
Yeah.
us what made you decide to get them diagnosed.
Well, it's my 3-year-old. So I have 3 children, ages 9, 7, and 3. Um, the 9-year-old was formally diagnosed with ADHD. Middle child is poor middle child. We haven't gone anywhere with him yet where he's on the list. And then the youngest is 3, and I kind of went ahead early with her diagnosis because she's also pretty nonverbal. But she speaks a lot, but she speaks in echolalia and in scripts. So the things that she says are things that she's heard before, and it's basically her saying the sounds that we say right now. So like she doesn't really even understand what she's saying sometimes, I don't think. She just is like, this is what we say when this happens, you know? And she repeats phrases, and that's how she interprets language, and eventually she'll catch on to things. And some things she does very much know what she's saying. Other things she doesn't really know what she's saying, or um it's hard for her to ask. She doesn't know how to ask questions if she's never heard the script, or like ask for what she needs without the script. And then sometimes she will do the script like um it's called gestalt language processing. So she would, if she wanted to go like outside to jump on the trampoline, she would say, "Hey mommy, are you jumping?" Or, because I would say, "Hey Celeste, are you jumping?" when we go outside to go on the trampoline. So it's stuff like that that she would pick up what I say, and that's how she would ask me to do things. But it wasn't, let's go jump on the trampoline, or trampoline. It wasn't any of that. And so, yeah, she speaks through language, like scripting and echolalia. She repeats everything. And she will say sentences like 8 to 20 times in a row until you repeat it back to her, because she doesn't feel like she's understood until you fully repeat her sentence. So today, like I walked inside, my husband had her at the sink. They were doing dishes, and she was like playing in the soapy water, and she was like, "Hey mommy, are you playing?" And I was like, "Oh Celeste, are you playing?" And then she asked me, oh dang, I lost my train of thought. She asked me, hold on, sorry. I have ADHD, and sometimes I literally just blank and cannot remember where I was going with my
That's
thought.
really common with us. I
Okay.
do it all
Um,
the time.
all the time. Okay, so anyways, yeah, she speaks to me through like scripting and echolalia. Oh, anyway, so yeah, she repeated something over and over again, and until I said, "Oh, Celeste, are you playing?" Then she wouldn't stop saying it. It was, "Hey, mommy, are you playing? Hey, mommy, are you playing? Hey, mommy, are you playing? Hey, mommy, are you playing?" And she'll say it over and over because she doesn't think that I heard her or that I know what she's saying until I say it. Um, so our communication is tricky because she speaks and people are like, well, she talks. I literally just heard her say the word balloon, you know? And I'm like, yes, but she's not communicating. So it's hard to understand
Ugh.
nonverbal autism because some nonverbal kids are verbal, but they don't communicate very well. So her diagnosis also said that she has mixed receptive expressive language disorder. So, yeah, I think she struggles to receive and express.
Since we're on the topic of our kids, Stephanie, did you want to throw any questions out there?
Yeah, I've heard of echolalia. Is that what you called it? That's
Echolalia.
something, echolalia. That's something my son's speech therapist has brought up that he
Mm-hmm.
does because when we say something, he'll say either the first part he heard or the ending part.
Yes.
He won't
Yes.
say the full thing, just how
Mm-hmm.
it was received, like not
Yes.
really a concept of what it was said.
Yes.
And then you said gestalt. That's something new I hadn't heard of.
Yeah. So Gestalt language processing, basically, I'm still learning about it too. I just started researching this like a couple of months ago because I kind of realized that that's what was going on with her. I even told, I'm the autistic mom. I walked in and told her autism evaluator, I was like, I'm pretty sure she's just all language processing and, all this stuff. And she said, I don't typically say this like to moms that bring their toddlers in, but I believe you. And you seem to know all of these terms and what you're talking about. But she is a Gestalt language processor, and so she just learns language differently. And like, I don't know if you're familiar with Miss Rachel. Are you familiar
Mhm.
with Miss Rachel?
Yeah.
So we watched a lot of Miss Rachel, and Miss Rachel is very. She asks for the kids to communicate back to her. She'll say open, and then they
Hmm.
want to say open, and she would go, just watch her because Celeste would go say open, she's going to say what Miss Rachel said. And so she doesn't learn language in that receptive way.
Oh,
She
okay.
learns through watching people script and then memorizing this is what we say in this moment or whatever.
Okay.
And so then she also has a lot of things that she repeats the same thing every single time, same scenario,
Mm.
like every time we get in the car, she says the same thing. Every time we like if she's going in the bathroom with me, she wants to brush her teeth every single time. Like she'll say, "Oh, is there a toothbrush? Oh, is there toothpaste?" And stuff. And so like sometimes, and there are like she's gotten to the point now. She's 3.5 years old. She just started talking when she was 3. I want to say right at 3 is when
Yeah,
she started
same
like
with mine.
talking.
Not
So
really even
we've not
talking,
been
just
talking for
words
very
for
long.
mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've really not been talking for very, very long, but she's already starting to pick up like some phrases. And like when she says it, it seems very natural, very in the moment, whether I know it's scripted or not, and she's getting there. Her language is progressing, but um, it's tricky the way that they adopt language or learn language. So then we switched to watching this girl I found on YouTube called Playtime with Tor, Tor. She is a Gestalt language teacher, and so all of her videos are very different compared to Miss Rachel. She does not like ask for receptive language back. It's just her observing play playtime with Tor. It's her observing Tor's playtime, and Tor is giving scripts. She'll say, "This is the way we wash our hands," and stuff, and she'll sing songs like that to
Mhm.
like get them to learn how to like wait for things. Like it's really hard to wait whenever you're like waiting for like your toast in the toaster or stuff like that. She explains concepts through sing song, but then also it's just very boring and plain. Like my mother-in-law has been like, I can't watch that, but it's because
Mhm.
she gets up for the day and she goes, I'm hungry. And then she goes to the kitchen and she opens the fridge and she says, I'm going to get some breakfast. And so then she goes and does the thing. And so so Celeste is
Yeah.
learning, when I wake up and I want food, I say, I'm hungry. Okay. And then, and so she's learning how to process
Yeah.
language a lot better that way. And she's picked up a
Mhm.
lot watching Playtime with Tor versus Miss Rachel, because Miss Rachel was asking for language that she didn't have. And she doesn't really
Mhm.
understand when you ask her a question. She still doesn't understand questions. I don't think she really
Yeah.
understands questions very well. And then if you ask her questions a lot, because she doesn't know how to flat out answer them or give you an answer, she will have a meltdown just being asked a question because she
Oh my
doesn't know how
gosh.
to
Yeah.
provide an answer. And then it's a demand
Yeah.
that you just gave her, and she's like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Put the
everything.
links to these channels in the description below.
Everything you're saying is like I can relate with my son. And and it's crazy because sometimes he like they have such good weeks or days and then sometimes they're back to, struggling with,
Yeah.
a part of the routine.
Yeah.
And I just it's so frustrating. I think like for me as a mom what's been so frustrating is just the people who get to do, see that bit of good and then they're like, he's fine. He doesn't
Oh,
have that.
yeah.
Look at him. And
Yeah.
it's just like you don't know my day-to-day life and like what we have to go through, like
Yeah.
you're getting him at his good best right now. Like
Right.
yes, I wish he was like that every time too.
Right.
And it's he's not. And
Yeah.
and just yeah, when you were saying about how they repeat stuff over and over and over until you
Mhm.
reply to them, my son does that. Like there is
Yeah.
this specific spot that every time we drove by it, he's
He
like
says the same thing.
ducks, ducks, because he knows ducks are
Yep.
there. But there are times that I'm like, I
Doing your
sometimes
own thing.
he's stimming because he's like that sometimes I don't even know he's talking.
Hmm.
And then when I start to hear him get mad, he's like ducks, like he screams. I'm like
Yes.
ducks, and then
That's
he
yes.
stops.
Yes.
Yeah.
Celeste does that too. She also used to she would get mad, and she would just, the way that she would let us know that she was angry is that she would count to 10 angrily. So she would be like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'll be like, oh, we're really mad. Yeah, girl, we're mad, and but so she didn't know how to tell me that she was mad, but she knew how to count to 10. So she would do it mad.
Wow,
Yeah.
she just did that on her own.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm still figuring out, yeah, like how can he let us know like he's
Right.
mad because he'll just,
Yeah.
yeah, he'll start throwing a tantrum, he'll want to run away, but him running away is
Yes.
dangerous. As much as I would love for him to
Yes.
run away and have his own space, I can't
Yeah.
because he's gonna go and throw something.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we're grabbing him, he's gonna want to have to take his anger out somewhere and that's on
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, like
I
and
get
then
that. Yeah,
yeah,
she definitely is an eloper as well. She
oh my
runs,
God, same.
and if we're in
Yeah.
public, she runs.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and
It's
she'll be doing just
scary.
fine. Like we were at a park playing on the thing. She's totally fine. And then, she notices like something, and she's just off.
So
Yeah.
that
And I
brings up an interesting question. What are your opinions on child leashes?
Mm. I think that every parent has to make their own decisions on what works best for them. And I think there's definitely moments where a child leash is probably the greatest tool that you've got in your playbook. And then there's other times where it's just not necessary. And so there's no reason to overuse it. You know what I mean? But I'm never, especially when it comes to autism, my biggest thing with other moms and with the way anybody else chooses to parent, whether they put their child in ABA or not, whether they do these things or not, I know that there are privileges not all of us have. There are, there's things behind people being able to receive help and resources and everything else. And not everybody has the choice to not go to ABA. Some kids have single parents that have to work and have to put them in ABA to be able to go to work, or some kids need ABA because if not, they have no other way of like really learning how to prevent bodily injury. They have serious need for being able to make that child aware of like how to be safe in public, how to do this, how to do that, and then how to stay with their mom at the grocery store or whatever it may be. Those things definitely, like, I'm never gonna, or if you need to use a leash on your child at the grocery store that day, like I'm not gonna look at you and be like, wow, I don't know where your bucket's at, and I don't know what I don't know where you're at, and sometimes we're at the end of our rope, and it may seem like a drastic measure, but for an autistic mom, like it's what I had to do today to be able to make it through the end of the day to survive. So yeah, I just think that there's definitely like, to each his own time and place. There's different levels of support needs. There's definitely probably kids, like I said, that could benefit, or parents that could benefit from that in situations. If you want to, it just depends on the situation too. But yeah, I feel like it's with anything that it's to each their own, and I just hope that people understand, and a lot of people don't. So I do it for fellow moms, because a lot of people don't understand where your bucket is and everything that you carry every day.
And you got to do what you got to do. But I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought up ABA
Yeah.
because there's such a huge negative
Yeah.
view of ABA right now in the
Right.
autistic community. And
Mhm.
like I said, commented on your video talking about that. Um, it really depends on the therapist you find because there are still
Yeah.
some that focus on the old way of doing things, the classical conditioning where if you're
Right.
fidgeting with your hands, they either hold them or they ignore you until you stop or whatever.
Right.
And then there are those who are more into the new way where it's more neuro affirming. They just
Mhm.
don't want you to hurt yourself.
Right. Correct. And I agree that there's definitely, across fields, across everything, even just in the field of psychology, there's doctors that are like up to par and up to date with the newest information, and there's those that aren't. And so that's another reason, adults struggle to get their diagnoses because not all psychs are up to date on how autism presents in adults and women, especially who are more high masking tendencies. Um, so I feel like, yeah, it varies just across the board that there's, good and bad apples everywhere. And I think that ABA definitely is facing uh, a lot right now. There's definitely a lot of talks going on between people. It's become a hot topic, I guess. But I think there's also, for me as a mom, I definitely, before I go anywhere, I kind of like interview the place. So I know that if we were to go the route of ABA, like you know, I would check out the place first, check out the therapist. I would talk to them about things that make me uncomfortable that I wouldn't want my daughter to experience, ask them what, how their practices are, if they've evolved over time, like what, and kind of get a feel for things. And I think that it's also, um, yeah, it's important to like be able to ask those questions. But again, like not everybody has the option of like going to find another ABA center. But um, regardless, I think that it's important to have those like lines of communication open with your therapists that are working with your kids, and just tell them things that that may make you uncomfortable or things you're not okay with. Like, and there's different terminology that is ABA language that I'm still learning, like hand over hand and things like that. So there's different techniques they use and names for them that people could look up. To see whether or not like it's something that they would want to mention as not being a favored practice. I know that Casey Davis on TikTok, she has a podcast called Struggle Care, and I think it's like episodes 100 through 104, if I'm being correct, that has all of this talk about ABA. She's got a psychologist on there, and then she's got I think an ABA therapist on there, a couple different episodes. And it kind of touches on a bunch of the stigma. And I thought that they were really helpful. So maybe somebody else would. But yeah, I just rambled a lot. Sorry.
That's perfectly fine. That's what this video is about. Keeping in line with neurodivergence in childhood.
Mhm.
Many autistics experience bullying as kids, especially those who go undiagnosed.
Yeah.
What was your childhood and school life like?
Oh, very interesting. I think that my school life made it almost a little bit more difficult for me to like get diagnosed. My personal circumstance, I grew up in a small southern town in a Catholic school, and there were 100 people in my graduating class. and I went to school with everyone K through 12. So we all knew each other from as babies. I think that it's in that kind of a situation, you don't really like there's not as much like separation and like I don't even know how to explain it. Because you've known these people since they were kids, you don't really know that there's something different about them. It's just that that's them, you know? But also it was just such a close community and such a tight knit like thing that um I don't think that I like stood out in any way other than I was very much always viewed myself as like I didn't have an authority problem, but I didn't think that people that were in places of authority would have a problem with me. So I was like, we're the same. I almost like felt like I was on the same level as like my teachers and stuff. I guess emotionally or like mentally, I always was like, you're wiser than your years, much older than you are, all these things. Um, I definitely struggled to relate to peers my age, but I also was a floater and everyone loved me, but I didn't have any close friends. So I like fit in everywhere because we were a close Catholic school, knit group of people. And like if there weren't really like separated cliques. We had like the sporty people and the mathletes and the whatevers, but like everybody was kind of also it just wasn't that separate. It wasn't super distinct. And I was a floater. So I fit. And again, I guess it was because I could just put on whatever mask I needed to and fit right in.
And that's something I've heard about undiagnosed autistic girls in childhood is they tend a lot of them tend to be social butterflies.
Hmm. Yeah, we want so badly to fit in. We do crave um, social normalcy. And so I feel like we definitely have this inherent, want or need to fit in socially more than boys do. I feel like also the patriarchy probably has something to do with that. I mean, they're a little more protected, but and girls, whatever. But like, I feel like it's just this inherent social desire that girls have, and so we become people pleasy, good girls, goody two shoes. I was made fun of for being a goody two shoes. Um, People called me Sister Sarah because they thought I was like, you're a nun, like you're too like you follow the
I
rules
still
because
get made fun
rules
of for that.
yeah, rules are a thing because rules for
Yes.
autistic people, it's like rules are great because then I know exactly what's expected of me and I will follow it to a T. I don't like not knowing what is expected of me or what mask to put on or what you want out of me. So if you tell me what you want, I got you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rules are fine. So yeah, definitely I feel like we're people pleasy, rule follower, good girls. Everybody loves us. We're sweet. We're this. And so then everybody loves us so much, but we don't have close relationships. Like I didn't have best friends, and the couple that I did have ended up being bullying relationships. Like I, had a friend that I thought was like a best friend or whatever, and then we started doing like sleepovers and hangouts, and it was like the second or third time, and she locked me in a dog crate and didn't let me out, and I thought we were playing a game. I thought I was like a dog. Um, but I didn't also realize at the time that that's demeaning. And so there's a lot of things socially that autistic kids don't pick up on because we also just, I don't know, but yeah. So some of those social things, like I definitely struggled with because I didn't understand when I was being bullied, too. But yeah, so it wasn't like I was, outcast or anything. So that's why I think looking back, I was like, oh, I didn't have social struggles. At first, when I first started thinking about it, I was like, no, I didn't have any social issues. And then I was like, oh, no, yeah, I did. I had a lot actually. When I started to break it down further.
It's interesting that you said that you didn't think that, times when you were being bullied, you didn't think you were and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I still struggle with that to this day.
same.
Someone can
Yeah.
openly be
Be
bullying me,
bullying
and
me. Yes.
I won't really get it at
Mhm.
first until I have a chance to think on it later. And
Delayed
then
process.
other times, somebody will be a little too aggressive, and I'll think they're bullying me when they're not.
Right. Yeah. It's hard to pick up on those social cues or to figure out what it is exactly sometimes. And so then we can also overshoot. Yeah.
So many in the neurodivergent community end up identifying with a specific alternative subculture. For me, it was goth and punk. Was there a subculture that you had identified as or with growing up or currently? I noticed your dreadlocks. I really dig the dreadlocks, by the way. I've
Thanks.
always wanted them, but
Yeah.
my sensory processes will not allow it.
I thought that I was really worried about it, but it's actually helped me with my sensory issues because I have very naturally like wild hair and the like it would always just be tightly wrapped on a bun on top of my head because if not, it would be driving me insane. These are so long and so heavy, it feels almost like a blanket and it just drapes over my shoulders and back down and I don't even feel it around my face. I don't feel anything. And it's actually been so much better of a sensory experience for me. Um, but
I'll grow my hair back out and get it
try
dread. Yeah.
it. Yeah. For me, it's been well, I went through kind of like a whole, I feel like it's also a very common process for people to go through a lot of like deconstructing of their own lives when they go through this process of figuring out their late neurodivergent of some sort. You kind of re-examine everything. You're like, well, what, if I didn't know this, what else did I not really understand? Or what else did I participate in that I just participated in out of habit or out of what I was indoctrinated into? So for me, definitely, like I have since left religion. So I very much resonate with like um just nature, like nature spirituality. I'm not super spirituality, but like spirituality. I collect crystals. I've collected crystals for years. And I'm a Reiki practitioner. I'm a level 2 Reiki practitioner, so I can give Reiki to people. Um,
Tell us a little bit
and
about that. I haven't actually heard of Reiki.
Reiki.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so interesting. It's an alternative healing modality. It's actually being offered in several hospitals around the country now. And it is an energetic practice where I can feel your chakra system, the energy systems that we have in our body. Um, they're called chakras. And so they spin and your energetic system can get congested and it can make it difficult for things to happen in your body for you to heal physically, emotionally, and everything else. And so redirecting that energy is kind of like clearing pipes and then everything can move better. So Reiki is very good for people that are in recovery of some sort, whether it be physical pain, emotional pain, if they've been going through a lot of like trauma, um, and or if they're like, physically ill or anything like that. And I'm also really into dogs. I was a dog groomer and a dog trainer for several years, and I opened my own business, did that for 2 years until I burnt out. Um, then did Reiki on animals and on dogs as well. And so that was really cool. The animals soak it up for sure.
That
And
is so interesting because people watching who non-believers may think may be a lot of
it
hooey.
sounds very woo.
And I
Which is
consider
why I'm
myself
always like, they're doing it at hospitals now because I want people to, I'm like, it's something, because I
Oh
get it.
my
I
God.
know what it
I
sounds
do
and
like.
that. I
I
do that
consider
too.
myself a pan-omnitheist, which is
Me
kind
too.
of a combination of pantheism
I
and
love that. Yes.
omnitheism.
Yeah.
And for me, the universe is made up of energy.
100% it is. Yeah.
Everything in the universe is made up of energy. So we're all
Yes.
connected in
Yes.
one way, shape, or form or another. And when we die, our energy rejoins the universe, whether you want to call that God or whatever, you
Right.
know. And so it's not that far fetched to think that somebody can reshape the flow of our energy, right?
Right.
Because
Or
we
that
are
our
energy,
energy can affect another's energy.
right?
Right. And so basically, I'm using energy to redirect yours.
That's cool. I'd
It's
like to
very
give
cool.
that a try sometime.
Yeah, you should definitely look up a Reiki practitioner near you. That would be, it's awesome. I love Reiki very much. So definitely like alternative healing modalities, crystal healing energy. I do work with crystals and stuff too, specific, specific crystals do specific things. They all have an energetic blueprint that's measurable by science, and um, they affect you different ways. And so I know about crystals and a bunch of different ones and what they do. I'm very also into holistic medicine, herbal medicine, and yeah,
Have you heard of, is it called shaman, something like that? Something with
Shamanism.
SH. Yeah,
a
we had that
shaman.
in multicultural class, didn't we?
Yeah.
What was it?
What
Shamanism.
Oh, shamanism. Yes, I've
is
heard
it
of it.
kind of like that?
No,
Different? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
different. Shamanism, I guess I don't know a whole lot about it, but I think that it's where you kind of have like a fancier life coach in a sense. A shaman is somebody that leads you spiritually.
Mhm. Yeah,
I'm
because I
pretty sure.
remember there was in our class our kid talking about how his, grandma who does this or mom takes like 4 naps a day, and you have to be a very well rested person because of all the energy
It
that
is a lot
you're.
of energy. It is a lot of
Yeah.
energy for sure. So definitely, anytime that you expend a lot of energy, like, yeah, you're going to be tired. And then somebody with a sensitive nervous system, it takes, it does take a lot. But I feel like that's also a gift of mine and why I'm able to do Reiki and why I'm able to sense other people's energy and manipulate it. I don't feel like, I'm grateful for that. I think it's one of the perks, I guess, of a sensitive nervous system is that I can help heal other people. Because I love that. So yeah.
So, what age were you when you began to suspect that you were autistic, and when did you accept that you were autistic?
I think I probably started when I was 29. I'm 34 now. Um, year 29 was rough for me. That was also, I think, 2020, 2019. COVID just hit around that time. So I think everyone collectively, as a collective consciousness, all of us went in and we were all like, what is real? And everybody kind of just did that recheck of like, what do I want out of life? What means something to me? The world shut down and everybody was like, what is this? Um, anyway, I've lost my train of thought again. Can you tell me what we were going?
When did
You.
you accept
Oh,
that
yes.
you were autistic?
Yes. So I started at yeah, year 29, and then definitely took me a year, and I think it took me a year of researching it and also at the same time being in denial and talking myself out of it or being like, see, I would do the thing where I would have a good day and I'd be like, "Psst, I'm not autistic, you know? Um and then I would be like, oh wait, no, yeah, I am. 2 days later. But so it was really difficult. It was a lot. It was like 2 years of me hyper aware of myself and hyper analyzing myself and going, was that something that, is that something? What is that? And then I think I did that for 2 years. And then I told people, I think I'm autistic. And I told my husband, I was like, don't jump out of the boat, but life's about to change. And then we found out like we took our oldest at the time too for an ADHD diagnosis. And so we did that. And then I started looking more and more into neurodivergence, and then how much ADHD and autism are connected, how often they co-occur. They co-occur more than they don't co-occur. And then I kind of just, yeah, kept going down the rabbit hole. And I think that it was a year later that I was like, probably 2.5 years, 2.5, 3 years in, I was like, I'm autistic, 1,000%. And then, yeah, I think I went through like every stage of grief. You feel all the feelings, anger, denial, acceptance, then back to anger and whatever. Um, and you just circle through all of these feelings and it's still not over. Like I have had my formal diagnosis since February and I still have moments. It's definitely brought a lot more healing and processing and acceptance to my own self for me. but um, it didn't take away the imposter syndrome, or anything else. Like sometimes I still am like, want to be in denial, which then, prolongs my healing. Because we tend to, especially like late diagnosed people, we tend to go so long with our needs not being met that we feel like we are worthy of life and we are accomplishing something if we are struggling and making it, because that's our normal. And so then we don't ask for accommodations and we don't start to try to help ourselves out. We stay in the grind and we stay doing the things, aware of the fact that we have the brain we have, but we're still operating like we were. And then I feel like I did that for a while, and then like really hit skill regression. And skill regression is a huge thing, and I didn't know what was going on. And I kind of have learned so many of these terms by being in it and trying to figure out what it is. They're like it, Googling, why do I feel like I have dementia? Because I can't remember anything. When I'm in burnout, I mean, it's crazy.
There is a correlation between autism and dementia later in life.
Yes,
We
there
are
is.
more likely to develop dementia and Alzheimer's and stuff like that.
Yes, my
And it's
my grandfather had Alzheimer's and dementia, but yeah, but I feel like you said, it is very common. And skill regression, that was, and it's kind, it's ongoing. I feel like it's also a normal experience once adults either self-actualize or are diagnosed autistic, that we go through that period of it's like you realize how autistic you are. You almost start being able to notice everything. And then it makes it more difficult for you to fight yourself and to put the mask back on and to gaslight yourself like you have your whole life. And so then it's almost like you became more autistic, you know? So that's like a uncomfortable process to go through, because I feel like it can drudge up some like shame, some embarrassment for people, and
totally.
there's people don't understand you anymore, nobody relates to you anymore, and all this. But we were all, drowning trying to keep up with the Joneses. So
It's interesting to hear about your story and how closely it resembles my own.
yeah,
Um, I've talked about this on my TikTok before and on this YouTube channel and everything. I got so many evaluations in fifth grade. I got a psych eval where the school psychologist said, "There's nothing wrong with me. I'm the reason I'm being bullied."
yeah,
And that I was suffering from generalized anxiety disorder and depression.
right.
And this was the exact same time that the DSM-4 just came out. So they
Mm-hmm.
were operating off the DSM-3 criteria.
Right.
And then in my 20s, I got an assessment and they said generalized anxiety disorder and depression. And
Yeah.
that was right before the DSM-5 came out. And then around, I want to say 34 years old, I'm 42 now. I returned to school at 36 to get my degree. So around 34, I began to suspect that I was autistic.
Mm-hmm.
And I began seeing all these things on media, all these interpretations of autism and everything. And while I didn't relate to that exact interpretation, there were things that I did connect to with those. We can we can judge these um the way autism is presented in the media all we want. There are things that they do get accurate in there.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that we autistics can very closely relate to.
Mm-hmm.
Are they over dramatized? Sure, but that's entertainment, right?
Right.
And so I went to my wife after I had begun connecting to some of these things. After I'd done a little bit of research, I still didn't know a whole lot about autism
Mm-hmm.
because I guess it had just switched from Asperger's to autism spectrum disorder. And, at that time, you were seeing everything in the media revolved around Asperger's.
Hmm.
Parenthood, the TV series with Craig T. Nelson,
Yeah.
one. And I went to my wife and I said, I think I might be autistic. What do you think? And she's like, I think you're just looking for something to be wrong with you.
Right.
And I was just like, okay, well, maybe I'm looking too far into things.
Yeah.
And then I returned to college. I start experiencing all these things, learning more. I watched Med Circle one day while I was doing my schoolwork, and they did a thing on BPD, and Dr. Romney was talking about borderline personality disorder, and I was only half paying attention. And some things she was saying really clicked in me, and I caught myself paying attention more. And it was
Hmm.
like she was talking about me, you
Hmm.
know. And so then I hit every check mark that she listed. So I
Hmm.
went and did the research myself. I began identifying as BP, self-identified BPD. I still do. No
Hmm.
official diagnosis for that, but I still do because BPD is so commonly co-occurring with late diagnosed autism
Yeah.
because of childhood trauma and everything.
Yep.
And then I stumbled upon TikTok right before I began the master's program at Northwestern. And I began seeing all these influencers on there talking about their experiences being autistic, being late diagnosed, being
Hmm.
early diagnosed, all their experiences and everything. And I began to relate. I
Yeah.
didn't
It's
relate
weird
to
how
everything.
many, how it's weird how many like unoriginal experiences we have. We all, it's like we all share the same story.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'd be laying in bed watching these and something would catch my wife's attention. She'd kind of look over like, well, that sounds like you.
Yeah.
I was like, well, didn't I suggest this a few years ago?
Yeah.
And then, we were at a cookout one time and my friend's wife asked if my son was autistic. And I was just like, I don't know. He's never been diagnosed. He's just
Hmm.
Duke to us, you know?
Yeah.
And she was like, well, a friend of mine's son is autistic and he talks and acts just like your son.
Yeah.
So that got us thinking a little bit further. And
Hmm.
I began doing more research. I began to self identify as autistic.
Hmm.
My son got his diagnosis in February of last year. I got mine in June of last year.
Nice.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just,
I feel like I left out actually a part earlier. I'm sorry to circle back.
that's fun.
Of my story. When I was in middle school, I think I was around the age of 12, I was diagnosed with ADD. ADD. It was the inattentive form of ADHD. Um, and so I did carry that diagnosis my whole life, but I also didn't understand that my ADD or ADHD, now that they took the ADD out of the DSM, now it's ADHD and they have the subtypes. Um, anyway, so I was diagnosed with the inattentive ADHD. And yeah, I knew that about myself, but I didn't realize how much it actually affected me outside of school, outside of trying to, just outside of my studies. I didn't know that it was affecting my actual real life because I went to it, struggling in school and struggling with these things. And at the time, I also started to develop a tremor in my legs, which it's a stem and it's stuck with me my whole entire life. And I just don't even know that I'm doing it sometimes. But we thought it was like my parents thought it was seizure-like activity. So they went to go get it checked on, and they said it is called a benign essential tremor. Literally a stem. It's a fancy word for a stem. A benign essential tremor. Um, so I was diagnosed with that, and I was like, yeah, whatever. It's just this thing. This is what it's called. Still no idea. Yeah, and so it's crazy to look back over your life and go, all of this makes sense now. All of this has context now, and it didn't have context before, and now it does. Um, but yeah, that's wild. And so then that's why we started pursuing the ADHD diagnosis with my oldest. Now I'm going to go back and take the oldest for an autism evaluation. Um, I'm like I said, paying one kid at a time. And so they, anyways, all of them have ADHD and autism. And yeah, but so I knew that about myself, but I didn't know that it was affecting me, and then I learned more and more about the ADD, the ADHD through the oldest. And I was like, oh, this is definitely like affecting me outside of like school. Like I'm an adult mom now. Like, oh, this is why I struggle with some of the things that I struggle with. And then led into the autism rabbit hole because they're just directly connected almost. And all that information just lit up this whole other side of me that I was like, never had any context for, never had any context for. And I always knew that the ADHD wasn't it. Like I kind of knew that there was definitely other things that I struggled with. I also formally received an OCD diagnosis at the same time as my autism diagnosis, um, and anxiety and depression. But yeah,
I like that you acknowledge the correlation between ADHD and autism.
yeah,
The way I describe it in therapy is while autism, yes, is a spectrum like the color wheel, right? Where, and most people think of it more as linear. The relationship between autism and ADHD is linear, where
mm,
you can have more or less of one or the other traits. And
hmm,
if you're right in the middle, you have an equal amount of both traits.
yeah, I'm pretty in the middle.
I'm sure the majority of us who are self or late diagnosed autistic are pretty close to the middle on that,
Right.
which
Yeah.
is why we went so long without a diagnosis.
Right.
Um, so autism is diagnosed by social communication deficits
Hmm.
and restrictive repetitive behaviors. Can
Hmm.
you talk a little bit about your traits and how autism presents in you?
Yeah. Well, during my evaluation, one of the things that one of the several like questionnaires that I filled out or whatever, one of them came back and it was like a wheel. And it was, one side was atypical, so more autistic, and then like neurotypical. And then there was also like a top and a bottom, but I can't remember. Anyway, but basically it kind of showed like more atypical communication and like repetitive like patterns and things. And my whole wheel was over here. I had a little bit of a hangout in social skills, social communication skills, because I have a high mask. So that made sense to me. But repetitive behaviors, um, that was one thing that I did. I was like, I don't have repetitive behaviors. Um, I'm not a routine person because I don't actually, I have PDA autism. So it's a persistent drive for autonomy. Pathological demand avoidance is another acronym. Um, and demands, as silly and as annoying as it is, demands make my nervous system light up. And then it becomes really, really hard to function. And I never really had like context. Anyway, sorry, I'm all over the place. So repetitive behaviors. I didn't think that I really had any. And or that I was a routine person because of the PDA. I don't like to have a schedule. Like I don't like a preconceived something I have to follow or I will feel suffocated and it's very difficult for me. So I was like, I don't like routines that are established necessarily. I need to be able to like have flexibility or I will again feel suffocated. Um, and so I didn't understand routine didn't mean schedule. Routine meant doing the same thing the same way every time. Or like if I'm doing, this every time I take a shower, it's the same way, the same like everything. And if there's a step missing, then I just won't take the shower. If I don't have the right towel and there's something in the dryer and I can't put the towel in the dryer, then I won't take the shower. Like it just won't happen. Or whatever. And so there was all of these like repetitive things. If I'm driving somewhere, even though I know there's 10 different ways to get somewhere in town, I will go the same way And sometimes it's a little bit longer, but it's the more comfortable way. And it's the way that I know. And it's the way that I go. It's just the way I go. It's the way I
Two
go.
roads for me.
Right. And so, yeah, I'm trying to think of some other examples of like repetitive behaviors I didn't understand were repetitive behaviors. Definitely stimming. I stim a lot, and I didn't understand that I was stimming, because a lot of the stems are, nail picking or cheek biting, or I scratch my scalp, or I like bite my lips or shake my leg. It's things that are try. I'm not like rocking unless I'm by myself. Um, anyways, so that yeah, those are repetitive behaviors as well. The stimming. Um, and then routine things like if I'm gonna watch a movie, it's probably one of the Harry Potter movies. It's of the series. Those are the only movies I watch. The only ones I like to watch. And it feels very weird to like talk about. Some of these things are so uncomfortable for me to like admit about myself as an autistic, but y'all, I know I'm in good company.
Mine
Um,
is Ghostbusters.
yeah, so it's if I'm gonna watch a movie, I want to watch Harry Potter, and that's all I want to watch. I don't really like watching new media or taking in new things. And like, so my husband wants to watch like a new show or like get into something. And I'm like, I don't have the energy for that. I like really don't. I just want I just want my thing. I just want my safety and my comfort, which is the same thing all the time. And so the routine need of sameness, the craving of sameness is routine. And I didn't really realize that. Um,
It was it. I like that you mentioned that um, you feel weird about mentioning this, kind of
yeah,
uncomfortable, right? And
yeah,
about safety things. In order to make you feel a little bit more comfortable, I wanted to share my safety object,
I love
and
it.
that's this blanket
Mhm.
from my
I love that.
childhood that it's now falling apart, but I love the little satin things.
Yeah,
It's comforting. It
I love that. Yes,
relaxes me, and I
yes,
keep it
yes.
by my side for when I get too stressed out, too
Yeah.
overwhelmed, or overstimulated, whatever it be. And I just
Hmm.
reach over and I just
Yep.
start
Squeezing
stroking the
in.
satin. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Do
love
you
that.
have a security object or a safety object?
I've had ones throughout my life, yeah. And sometimes, they last like several years and then change. But I had a monkey growing up, wore it out till it lost its eyeballs, and then I don't know what happened to it. And then as an adult, this is not nothing I'm proud of and nothing I don't condone necessarily, but I use nicotine a lot, and there it's definitely like a stem a regulatory thing, so a lot of us use nicotine for that reason, or
Mm,
caffeine.
I did
um
until about 10 years ago.
yeah, and yeah, so I do have, that's right now, that's my safety item, I guess, which I don't love that, but but it
It is
is.
what it is.
Yep, yep.
Stephanie,
And
did
so
you
I
have
definitely, and
anything
it's
you
like
wanted?
a lot of people still, I don't think, would understand that maybe that would be their safety item, because it's a safety item for a lot of people, whether they're autistic or not. But and so it's hard to find the content. It's hard to go, is that I don't know. Um,
My wife has actually suggested that my inhaler is mine, even though I don't really need it anymore
mm-hmm,
because I have one of these things that has really helped.
mm-hmm,
I still, if I check my pocket to make sure it's not there and I
mm-hmm.
don't feel it, I feel my airways close up.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
Stephanie, is there anything you wanted to ask while we're in between questions?
Um, a lot of the things you both said, like I've already like felt like, like I definitely have a lot of traits of like ADHD. Um, but a lot of the things you guys said, like I can relate to. And but I can imagine, yeah, like how is it as a mom to be neurodivergent with a neurodivergent, but then also like with me having felt like I have ADHD, um, just because like yeah, I do have repetitive stuff too, and I
Mm-hmm.
also if I I fixate on things. Like
Yes.
if I do start to like be annoyed and like think too hard about the light, it is gonna bother me too. And like
Mm-hmm.
even when I'm cold, I still need to turn the fan on and I'll just put extra cover on because I need to hear the sound.
Yep.
And it's hard for me. Like recently, like 2 weeks ago, I had a very bad stuffy nose. My son was sick, and like the stuffy nose I know was getting worse with the fan, but I had to pick. It was
It
either
had,
like suffer with the stuffy nose or not having the noise, and I had to have the noise. So
yeah.
there's just so much you said. So
Yes.
it's just like
I get it.
because it's like with me, yeah, like that's not there, I go to therapy, but that's not something that we've discussed yet. It's more so like, just the struggles of having an autistic, child and not having a lot of support. But it's like
Mhm.
for you, you need like double the support because you're not just like,
Yeah.
learning your kids and how to help them, but you also have to learn how to help
I'm
yourself.
relearning myself too right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a whole lot, but I feel like it's actually just, it's all happening at the same time. And it's so me learning about myself helps me like have context for them. And I think that that's why I'm also so interested in learning about myself because I'm like, about myself or about ADHD or autism in general is for them so that I can know all of the things like when they, because I wasn't understood. And I feel like it is such a big deal to go your whole life with like chronic misattunement. It's chronic misattunement that creates a lot of our trauma because nobody really sees our experience for what it is. It's very much like, just get over it
Yeah.
or just
And I
don't
think
worry
that's where
about
the
it or just
masking comes
that's where
from.
the masking comes in 100%.
Yeah.
It's formed out of trauma.
Yeah.
It's formed out of out of the need to perform neurotypicality in order to fit in and in order to stay safe and in order to be looked at as like worthy or normal for the lack of better
Yeah.
words. Um, and so I always knew that I was performing. I knew that I was performing. Like I knew I was masking, but I didn't know I didn't know I was masking, but I knew that I was performing
Yeah.
what
Or you like
they
didn't
would
know like
like.
where it was coming from though. Like
Yeah,
why do I
right.
feel the
Why
need
do I do
to
this? And my
Yeah.
husband and me and my husband have been together since 8th grade. And
Wow.
so we've grown up together and all through middle school and high school, he would be like, sometimes he'd be like, you were just being so fake. Like, I don't understand why you act like that. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm fake? I'm not real. And so we would fight
Yeah.
over it because I didn't understand what he was trying to say. But now we understand that he was like, oh, I just was observing you heavily masked in this like
Um,
instance. And he was like, why are you doing that? Like, why are you not just being yourself? And because I was, I could be myself around him. I could be unmasked. He's also
mhm.
neurodivergent. And so we're very unmasked together.
Yeah.
And he's also a man. And so he's way more unmasked than me. And he never really, even though men, I feel like there's so many men that go through their lives undiagnosed, but they also still didn't develop the mask. So they're undiagnosed and unmasked. And the unmasked can look like so many different things in men and that can be really like make life really challenging for them, like very
Yeah.
misunderstood in that way as well. Women are misunderstood because we have a mask, and I feel like men are misunderstood because they don't develop one, and then they're like too honest, too blunt, too this. They seem kind of narcissistic or something. They're the way that they communicate is like completely different, and um so yeah, I feel like for men
Think
that's kind of like their struggle.
Do you
Yeah.
think since you've been with your husband since 8th grade that your
That also was a
relationship
factor. That was a
is
factor for sure.
part of your restrictive repetitive behaviors?
Wow, actually, point that one out for me there. That's yeah. You know what? But on both accounts, for both of us.
That's so
That's funny.
confusing, huh? Like
Yeah.
having to
Yeah.
yeah, like be a certain way with somebody and then have to be somebody else that is just like, which one am I?
Yeah, or he would just like, when we were in like especially like just like social settings where I don't know, like where you put on your customer service voice or your whatever.
Yeah.
But like I would have to put on the mask or the customer service voice and
Mhm.
stuff, and he would just be like, "Why are you doing that?" And I would be like, "I don't know. I don't even know what you're talking about." Like, I don't know. Um, so yeah, it's given like my diagnosis has given our relationship to so much context. the things that we've struggled with, the way that we communicate to each other, like everything. It's
I
given
think it
us,
helps name things and take accountability too, because it's like
yeah,
a lot of times it's like, yeah, it's the narcissistic like thing where it's you're
yeah.
just like, that's just how I am,
Is
you
it
know?
autism or is it narcissism, right? Like that's,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Because it can seem like that when you don't even know what to call that action, like, or
Yes,
what
when you
you're
don't know what to
doing.
call it or where it's coming
Yeah.
from, if you don't understand that it's
You
just
don't even,
it's unmasked
yeah.
autism sometimes, it's not narcissism. Um, those things can get tossed around and it's like it can be, yeah, it can be messy. And I
Yeah.
really feel that for the men, for the undiagnosed men with
Yeah.
that are more unmasked. They didn't develop the mask because they don't really have to socially as much. But then it also just their communication then struggles continue, and then they don't have the context later in life either. Because a lot of his, he's the same way my husband is. So like a lot of his relationships that have fallen apart, or like the way that he's tried to communicate with coworkers, or the way that this has happened or that's happened, and the way that he is taken, like, or received, and stuff, and then he doesn't understand, or later on it's delayed processing happens, and so yeah,
Wow.
Glad
Well,
you mentioned that because that leads to another question. But
yeah.
before I get to that one, Stephanie, you had mentioned about being neurodivergent, raising a neurodivergent child. For me and my son, we are so much alike.
Yeah.
We butt heads constantly. And my son's also RFID.
Mm,
So there's
yep.
only a few foods he'll eat.
Yep.
And there's a lot of times when, you just want to wring his neck. And
Yes.
you're like, why are you like this? And it's like, oh, yeah,
Yes.
because of me.
Oh, because of, oh, yes. Oh, because you have my DNA.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
Um, so
my
with
genes.
the that rejection type thing that you spoke about with your husband and the
Mm,
delayed processing and all, what do you experience when someone decides they no longer want to hang out with you or work with you, or when they feel like you just don't fit in with their group or crowd? Is there any kind of rejection sensitivity there?
100%. I very much have rejection sensitivity. Um, yeah. And um, I don't know, like I don't know. I feel like I do have rejection sensitivity because if someone tells me that they like you know, I don't know, if they like don't believe my neurodivergence or something, like, yeah, I have rejection of that. Like that's gonna really upset me because then I have a lot of explaining to do and I have to educate you and I have to do this and that's a lot of work. It's a demand now
Mhm.
that you've put on me energetically. Anyway, but one more time. Will you tell me where we were at? I'm unmedicated for my ADHD. Let's put that out there as
Well,
well.
you're doing
Perfectly
great
fine.
for being unmedicated, let me tell you.
What do
I'm
you
trying.
experience when someone decides they no longer want to hang out with you
Hmm.
or work with you, or when they feel
Yes.
like you just don't fit in with their group or crowd? And is there any kind of rejection sensitivity?
Thank you
Oh
so
yeah.
much for just like
I forgot too.
repeating. Yeah, thanks. I
That's
really
why I've
okay.
got them typed up here.
Yeah.
Smart.
So I definitely have also experienced I guess bullying as an adult that I didn't realize was bullying, and it was me just being used for how I just love hard. I have such big feelings, and if I love you, I love you. Like, and we're doing life together now. And so I'm just that way. And a lot of people have taken advantage of that over the years, and I didn't realize it. And I've lost friendships that, like, I had this one friend for probably 8 years, and we were super close, but I also basically helped her raise her daughter. She was a single mom, and then I had an autistic meltdown in front of her before we were supposed to go on vacation together, and she was like, "Are you like, I've literally never seen you like this, and like, are you going to be okay? Are you ever going to be normal again? Like, are you going to be yourself when we go on vacation?" And I was like, yeah, let me just swallow that real quick, like snap back into my mask, went on vacation and tried to talk about the fact that I'm autistic while we were on vacation. And it was annoying and it went nowhere. And that relationship after that vacation, it literally fizzled out. I tried to ask to hang out with her like 5 times and she just never. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
She just never said anything back. So it's really like, it's hard because it's autistic meltdowns are embarrassing as fuck. They
Yeah.
can be. Um,
Well, I think you had that in that moment, not just because
and
you have that as a
it was like,
trait.
I'm sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, no, yeah, I was just gonna say not because that's like one of your traits, but I do think like everything happens for a reason, and I think it had to happen in that moment around her to
Yeah,
realize that that's not a friend.
she wasn't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that was, yeah, that's unfortunate. And it's happened a couple more times. And I actually have a friend that is an ABA therapist and uh she like she was really angry that I was like self-diagnosed for a long time and that I was making content about it as a self-diagnosed person.
I
She
can
does not
relate.
support self-diagnosis. And so that relationship also fell apart. Um,
I don't think I had, when I was self-diagnosed,
mhm.
the only people who ever said anything was on Facebook, the
Yeah,
people who knew me in person.
yeah,
And it was just, it wasn't a lot of them. It was like a neighbor that would say, I don't think you're autistic. I have, I know a kid who's autistic and you don't, and,
yeah,
or you get the, I don't, I don't think there's anything wrong with you. You're just you, you're smart and all this. And it's like, I didn't say
yeah.
there was anything wrong with me.
Hmm.
But then it's the other people who are like, they don't say anything. It's like, okay, did you see something that I didn't see and you neglected to tell me or what?
Right. Yeah. I've had a lot of, and it's hard too when people respond with things that don't sound great. Like telling people that my daughter's like diagnosed level 2 autistic, and they're like, "Well, that's not that bad, right?" You know. And I'm like, none of it's bad. It's just autism.
Yeah.
It's
And the
hard to
thing about
explain
the
too
Why
because
can't
levels,
they just say what's that like? Why can't you just
yeah,
be curious to hear
yeah,
rather than, just
yeah,
say something like that?
when
yeah.
somebody mentions the levels, I automatically go into education mode. It's
Yes, me
like
too. Yeah,
we're not diagnosed with any specific level. Like in my diagnosis, there's no mention of the level.
me
I
either.
had to do research myself.
Yeah.
And what I found is autistics, we will move between the levels. On a good
And
day, we can be low support level 1. On a
yes,
Yeah.
bad day when we're
Yes.
meltdown or on
yes,
the
we can
verge,
definitely move
level
through the
3.
levels
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And I feel like the levels actually are given too in multiple different areas. So you could be a level 1 in like communication, but you could be a level 3 in your sensory needs or in your whatever. And so like they can overlap. My daughter's evaluation did have a level on it, but it said level 2 restrictive behaviors, level 2 sensory whatever. And so it was directly related to that specific area that they would give her a level or whatever. And so um because every area said level 2, that's what that's how I explain it to people. um but technically, yeah, the levels are really not necessarily a great measure outside of a medical context because they are per area um, of concern or whatever.
And it's per day, per moment, really.
Yes. Yeah.
You could start out the day level 1 and the day level 3.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, what are some of your sensory difficulties?
I oh um well, I really struggle with showering. I just made a TikTok about this the other day. I struggle with the sensory changes something being different. So I often will wear clothing, the same clothes for like 3 fucking days in a row. If I'm not going anywhere, I'll sleep in it. I'll like just wear it again the next day and I'll sleep in it and whatever. Because I don't like the feeling of my body having to adjust to another way that another outfit feels. And I don't like the adjustment from like going from being dry to being wet to getting in the shower. So I avoid getting in the shower a lot because I don't like that major change up of like sensory experience, or even being like from hot to cold. I will lose my breath sometimes when I get cold. All of a sudden, my muscles will tense up to the point that I'm like cramping. I won't be able to walk. It's like I will. It's the weirdest thing, but it's like I turn into stone, and it makes it really difficult for me to like move if my temperature change is drastic in any way. So like getting from like the warm car and walking to the from the through the snow to go into the house. When I get in the house, I'm in so much pain sometimes. I can't breathe. It's the weirdest, stupidest thing that I've never had context for until now. Um and so yeah, my I'm just like super, all of the senses seem to be heightened almost. Sun is too sunny. Sometimes I can't even drive or open my freaking eyes when I go outside. I'm like, how are y'all, how are you even doing this? Like I literally can't even open them. Um don't like overhead lighting. I can hear everything like I said. Um yeah, textures are big for me. Compression is big for me. Sometimes when I'm like super upset, I need to be squeezed, um, or like laid on, like sat on. I need to be like compressed really, really tightly. I like to wear compression clothing a lot too. If I'm super anxious, I will put on tight clothing. And if I'm super like overstimulated, then I'll take all my clothes off because it's too much. And sometimes I can put on an item of clothing and then it'll be fine for 2 hours. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, and I have to take it off because like I don't realize that this has been bothering me. And I didn't know that that's what it was
I'm
because I wasn't
glad you
checking
mentioned
in.
that.
Yeah.
I cannot, most of my shirts are stretched out right here. I
Yeah.
cannot have
Same.
anything touching my throat.
Yeah.
Like,
I
and,
don't like, I can't wear regular t-shirts that have like the regular, no, no, I can't do it. Yeah.
but
It's
yeah,
too
I don't
suffocating.
like wearing the V-necks because
But I love a hoodie.
I think they make me look fatter because of the way that they're designed. And like, I, my wife and I will cuddle in bed.
Hmm.
And like the moment she puts her arm around me, I start getting itchy everywhere,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
places she's not touching.
Yeah, I'm definitely like cuddle for a little and then don't touch me
Mm.
or I won't sleep. Um, and I have to sleep with like the certain, a certain set of pillows in a certain order every night. So it got to be the same thing.
Always
Um,
fluffed a certain way.
yeah, no sheet on the bed. I don't like the flat sheet, but not like the fitted sheet, but not the flat sheet. That just gets in the way and it's too overstimulating when my legs get right, whatever. I just need a cover.
I
um,
know
We
that was
switched
so
to
that
satin
one's so
sheets.
useless.
yes, it is so useless. I'm
Me
like,
too.
we keep
And
them
I
for
only use
like
the fitted
paint.
too.
Yeah, we keep them for like painting or like something like they're drop cloths, but
We
Yeah.
don't
switched to
use.
satin sheets, and I will never go back. My
You
wife
love it.
keeps my wife keeps begging me to go back to the cotton sheets. I'm like, no, satin.
I've gotten to
Everyone
like this.
compliments my satin sheets. Like when I have family and friends come, they love that they're like, I'm gonna get this.
Yeah. See, and for
Yeah.
me, it's so funny how all of our senses are so different because for me, I can't do satin. Satin, like, I know, I don't know why. It's like too
It's too
much.
slippery.
Yeah, it's too slippery, and it's like I can feel every single hair on my body when the satin is on, or like
Yeah.
the littlest like skin around my fingernails I've been biting, or like anything I can
Oh,
like if it gets caught like on the satin.
yeah, that does happen. I have
Yep.
to be, I always have to have socks on though. I cover everything up.
Yeah.
Like,
I
it's
used to
my
be
feet
that
definitely always have to
way.
be covered.
Yeah.
I used to be that way. Then it got to the point where as soon as I take my socks off,
Hmm.
my feet and ankles started getting itchy. Now I
Yeah.
have to have a bottle of alcohol, rubbing alcohol by my bed and pour them on my feet and ankles before I go to bed. Otherwise, I will be itching them all night.
Yeah. It's
As we're
crazy.
talking about this, I had a quick thought. because like I just feel like when another thing I see a lot is that a lot of people, when people are talking about the sort of things that they go through, they can relate and they start making fun of it, kind of
Mhm.
like, oh, well, then I must be autistic. Oh, then I have this, I have, and
Yeah.
I feel like what everybody needs to keep in mind is that like everybody can, and I think Shannon, you have
Everybody has
like
human traits, right?
yes,
Yes.
everybody has human traits and a lot of
Yeah.
the stuff that it's being spoken about, you might be able to relate to. Like
Yeah.
keep in mind that it's if you meet absolutely everything under that diagnosis and it's also impacting your social life and it's presented and noticeable in the outside world. But
Yes.
it's just like, yeah, there's just some things that people don't get because it's like,
Yeah.
that stigma, mental health, and people don't want to dig deep. And I wanted to say Sarah, and just like commend you on how well you described everything, like all your sensory issues. Like you can tell that you've been doing so much work on yourself,
I
and
really have.
yeah, you can tell
I'm
because
trying
it's
to
like
survive out here.
yeah, and I love that you're using a platform to like educate people on that because it's like
Thanks.
little things like
Yeah.
that for people who don't want to explore themselves. It's hard for them to, realize
To
that it could be
understand,
this,
yeah.
it could be that,
Yeah. Hmm.
And as you were talking about the shower too, I remember seeing something about like I don't know if it was just a post saying like, oh, lonely people like hot shower because it feels like a warm hug. And like
Right.
I'm like, am I lonely? Because I love really hot showers. And I know for you, like the temperature change is a
Yes.
big thing. Like I
Yes.
have to run to my towel and I am
Yeah.
suffering the whole minute.
Yep.
But I was
That's
gonna
funny.
say
See,
like
and my
if
husband likes water really hot, and I'm like,
yeah,
I can't because I'm too sensitive, and then
uh
I'm like, it's way
yeah.
too hot.
Oh, okay.
Like, I have to have like almost lukewarm water. It's the weirdest
Oh,
thing.
okay.
So,
I
like,
was
but
gonna
it's funny
suggest
because
the
everybody's
hot.
so different. But you could be, technically, that could be like a sensory seeking thing that you're doing
Yeah, I can put it
to,
really hot and I love
yeah.
like it will get steamy and I
Mhm.
and I do it a little bit before I leave the shower. Like I have to feel that for a little
Yes,
bit.
before you get out.
I
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
leave my
And
towel draped over the curtain rod
yeah,
because
I
if
need
I
what
get
to
any
put
water
something
on my
near.
face at
On your
all,
face, you have to
quickly,
wipe it off
yeah.
immediately.
Oh my
Yes.
God,
Yeah.
my son is
Me
like
too.
that. He hates water on his face.
Yeah.
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 Even if there's no soap at all, as soon as that water
It's
Hmm.
the
gets on there,
splash.
yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
I also just really struggle when I get in the shower. I really do not enjoy the feeling of the water on me like that. Like, and it's because it is not even. I don't like it being on my back and then I have to turn around to get it on my front to feel the same feeling. I can't have it both feel. I can't have it like even at the same time. That bothers me. Like, and then I'll be like,
High pressure. It can't be any of this partial pressure crap.
yeah. And it's like I need it to be like even to maybe that's OCD, but like I need it to be like on both arms at the same time, not just one. And it drives me nuts. So yeah.
My wife always gives me shit like whenever I'm in a shirt that's not really sitting right, I'm constantly pulling
Yep.
it at my
Adjusting it.
Yeah.
neck and
I have to
Yeah.
or
do that with
itch.
this
I mean,
sweater a
My
lot.
son, every shirt that he has is stretched like this.
yeah.
Like all
Or
of his t-shirts,
I'll do this
nicks.
with my shirt, and she'll see me and
Yeah.
she'll just start doing this to make
Yeah.
fun of me.
Yep. Do you have any like ticks or things that you do repetitively? Another repetitive behavior of mine is that I'm constantly like pushing my nose or adjusting my glasses. I push my glasses, the edge of my glasses that I normally wear. I don't have them on right now. I normally like push my glasses or I'm constantly pushing my nose to the point I have a permanent crease across the top of my nose. My mom like wrote that in my evaluation. She was like, she has a permanent crease on the top of her nose for my I was like,
Not
I
sure if
guess
you've
that is a repetitive
noticed.
behavior. I never noticed. Like I just, it's a tick of mine like that I do. And it's like, it's almost a stem. It's just, it's
Not
a
sure if
space
you've
filler.
noticed throughout the course of this video, I've been itching, like
I do
doing
itch.
this
I
and
scratch my
like
head a lot too. Yeah.
yeah, itching like everywhere. It's like
Yeah.
if I'm just relaxing by myself watching TV, nothing's going on, I'm fine. But the moment I start getting stimulated in any way whatsoever, I start getting really fidgety,
It's
start
because you like
itching.
Me
brought back
too.
into your body and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm aware of everything. And this
Right.
hair on my back has just been rubbed that way. And now it's like, yes. And it's so crazy because sometimes we can zone out, we can get hyper focused on something else and we don't even notice it. Like a
Yeah.
Now that I'm
tornado could go
focusing
through the
on it,
room.
I
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys noticed, but I got hyper focused noticing that my laptop screen, it's the reflection there at one point. I'm like, oh, get back on the zone. Like,
Yeah.
so how do burnout, shutdown, and meltdown present for you?
Ooh.
I know earlier you got it started getting a little
Mhm.
upset and you apologized. First,
Yeah.
I wanted in the moment to stop you and say you never have to apologize for getting
Yeah.
emotional and being in your feelings. This is a safe place. Who
Yeah,
cares
no,
about the
thanks.
comments?
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah,
Shame on
so
you for having emotions.
I know, right? Um, yeah, so burnout, meltdown, shutdown. I'll start with meltdown, shutdown because they're, I feel like, simpler. Um, Shutdown for me, definitely, if I get like, so I have the PDA and I feel like that plays a huge part in it because things that become too demanding for me make me shut down. And sometimes it can even be conversation. It can be like just too many things going on at once that need my attention. And I will shut down. And it's almost like the lights are on, but nobody's home. You know, I I have to completely. It's like a dissociation. I'm just dissociating in front of you, and or while I'm with you. Um, Especially emotional overwhelm can lead to shutdown too, because if it's not safe for me to melt down, then I will shut down. And that typically is why shutdown happens, because I had to skip meltdown or I had to shove it and hold it. Um, Otherwise, it's a meltdown. And meltdown is, I describe it as a mind crisis. I feel like I am in crisis mode. And in that moment, I don't really see life as any different. Everything is terrible. Everything is too much. Everything is overwhelming. Everything is everything, and I don't feel like I just don't feel like I can do life right now. I just can't do life right now. That's how it feels. I cannot do life right now. And then I will cry hysterically. Um Sometimes I scream like, oh, sorry. Um Sometimes I'll like scream into a pillow or something. Um and but most of the time it is just crying and stimming, like heavy stems, rocking a lot, shaking a lot. And yeah, it feels it feels inescapable in the moment. It just feels like this monster is on top of me and I can't do anything about it. There's nothing I can do about it. I feel completely powerless in those moments. And that's another thing that is really difficult. And I feel like it ends in shutdown because I am powerless. If I need to withhold the meltdown, then I just can't operate. It's too much energy for me to try to hold it all in. So I'm literally just like a stone. Um, and then, yeah, and burnout is, a much longer period. I feel like meltdown, shutdown, those are instances that have an ending same day. Burnout can last months, it can last years for people. I know for me, typically, I stay in burnout for an average of a year and a half postpartum with every baby, and I've had three of them. Um, Postpartum is really difficult for an autistic woman, really difficult for ADHD women, and really difficult if you got both. But it's a lot to adjust to. Being a new mom is a lot to adjust to. And the second time around, you're still a new mom again. And there's a lot to adjust to. And now you've got another one, and all that. So, but back to burnout. Sorry. So burnout lasts, yeah, like it can last months, years. And it is a period of life where I feel like I just am not able to operate at my best, no matter how hard I try. And it's like I have, like I said, I feel like I have dementia sometimes. I can't remember things. I don't know what I did this morning. I can't remember what I had for breakfast. I don't know what you said to me an hour ago. I don't like, it's like I'm floating. I'm just dazed and confused a lot, it seems. Like I just can't grasp onto reality. It's like I feel like because I'm so stressed out and overwhelmed and burnout that I do experience a lot of dissociation, and walking around living in dissociation is what makes nothing stick. So you feel like you have dementia, because I'm not fully present all the time because my brain is processing and is, trying to like cope. Um, I feel like in burnout, I don't have like the same level of patience. I don't have the same level of communication skills. I'm not able to articulate things or put a sentence together sometimes that I'm trying to like explain something to someone and I don't know how, or I'm like not getting to the point, or I'm missing the mark and I'm not really explaining myself. I know that I'm not getting my point across kind of thing, especially to try to get my needs met. And that's difficult. Like I don't know how to explain to you why I need this or what it is, but like I need it. I don't know. And
For me, there's almost levels to the burnout,
yeah,
shutdown,
for
and
sure.
meltdown.
Yeah.
It's almost like there's three levels to each.
Mm,
Like for burnout, usually for each of them, I usually stay about level one. There have been a few times when I've gone full blown.
hmm.
Like with shutdown, there've been a few instances where I went full complete shutdown where I sat in my vehicle after getting home. I was so overstimulated and everything. I just sat there, doing
Yeah.
nothing. I couldn't even lift my arms. They
Move.
just felt like
Yeah.
there were 100-pound weights on them.
Yep.
And then there are times when most of the time I'm staying level one where of shutdown where I go nonverbal.
Yeah.
I can communicate via typing if I'm in
Yeah.
like a class and
Hmm.
I have to participate. I
Hmm.
can enter the chat,
Hmm.
but I sit in a dark room
Yep.
to where people can't really see me that well.
Yeah.
And I'm just radio silence most of the time.
Right. Yeah. Definitely nonverbal
Yeah. In
when it's
meltdown,
shut down.
it's like I'm very angry.
Yes.
Anything can just piss me off.
Angry. Yes. Angry is the
Level
word.
three of meltdown is I want to break some shit. I want to go out and
Yeah.
rage.
Level three for me is eloping. I tend to leave. I will try to escape the room I'm in, the situation I'm in, the person I'm with, whatever it is. I have to elope. Yeah.
Same,
Yeah.
same. And then like with burnout, like you were saying, it's just you almost feel like you're a zombie, just
Yeah. I
like
just can't
moving
operate
through
at my
life.
prime. I'm not at my prime. I know it. Like, I just can't keep up. I'm definitely like eating more safe foods. I can't cook dinner very often. I'm not able to like meal prep. I can't plan ahead. When I go to the grocery store, I forget things. Just stuff like that. Like I'm just not on my A game at all when I'm in burnout. And burnout definitely, again, yeah, I would agree with the levels thing, because there's days where, I'm in burnout and I'm muddling through and I'm like, whatever, or days where I'm in burnout and I have no other choice but to execute. And then I will be completely in the hole for like 3 days because I had to
Especially
do that.
being a parent because you have to.
Right. Exactly. The hardest thing, I think, and that's why a lot of women go undiagnosed until the point of burnout, and we hit burnout after childhood, is because our level of coping skills decreases when you have other people that you're responsible for, and the things that you have to keep up with and the list of demands increase, and then it just can become so overwhelming. um so a lot of us late diagnosed or late realized autistic women, it's a lot of times after we have kids, somewhere along the line after we have kids, while they're still pretty young.
Tell me a little bit about how you process information on a good day and how you process information on a day where you're struggling.
Ooh. Can you give me like an example of information? Like,
So, like
When I'm learning something or something.
Well, like there's top down and bottom up processing,
Hmm.
where bottom up is you don't see the forest for the trees. You know, you see each individual tree, every bush, and then you build the forest.
Right.
Top down would be you see the forest and then you start picking apart all the individual things that make up the forest.
Right.
Um, do you process faster or slower? Stuff like that.
Oh, definitely. I feel like I'm a have an idea of big picture and then fill in the blanks, like probably top down a lot. And then but also maybe some of the bottom up. Who knows? I don't know. I haven't really thought about that very much. Um,
Interesting that you mentioned that because uh, in my research, I've found that individuals with both autism and ADHD
mhm.
process both ways.
Yeah, I do both ways for sure. That's why I was like, I don't think I can pick one because for sure both. Um,
And I actually did a
Mostly
video on TikTok about
but when it's needed of me, like creatively, I used to also be a dance teacher, and I taught little kids dance and adults dance, but we did it in a very big, productive way. And we had this big year-end showcase, and it was like a 2.5 hour production, lights, camera, action, props, and all the whole nine. And I was excellent at creatively building concepts and ideas and dances and themes and everything from the top down. Like having this big concept we need to fill, like we need to execute a dance about Disney. And so then I would go, great, give me Disney. And then I would fill in all fill in all the pieces and be able to like creatively execute that way. But if I'm burnt out, the pieces aren't showing up. If I'm burnt out, then I'm having a hard time creatively executing. And normally I'm like super creative, like great ideas. Um, and my ideas never end. But when I'm in burnout, I can't find them. And that frustrates me.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
During undergrad, I published 6 books. And
Hmm.
since getting into grad school, going through that burnout of just being ready to be done with school,
Hmm.
I sit down, I try to write. I can't even get through a paragraph
I get
unless
it.
it's
Yeah.
for school.
Yeah. Yeah.
How would you like a therapist to approach therapy with you?
I have no idea. I would love a therapist, but I've always been smarter than my therapist, for lack of better words. I've always been also a step ahead of them because I'm a very good intellectualizer and I am very good at analyzing myself and analyzing my own behavior. I just had this thought today because somebody was saying that you can't like about along the lines of self-diagnosis being valid because somebody was saying that like you can't observe yourself I don't remember the word they used. Objectively, maybe like you can't observe yourself enough in a way to where it's like removed to where you could be.
For us autistics, we
But we
can
do
when we
that,
look
right?
back, maybe not in the moment.
Yeah.
Like there's
But
times
no,
I will
maybe not in
say
the
shit
moment,
that
but definitely upon reflection and delayed processing,
right,
100%. I definitely analyze myself as if I am not myself. I
right.
analyze myself separate of my ego all the time. And I don't know if that's an autistic experience or not, but I thought about that today and I was like, I feel like that may be also another reason why, neurotypical people don't understand self-diagnosis of autism because we're like, no, I'm literally like observing her as if she's not me because I can do that. And I've always done that because I've always been like, here's the me that everybody sees. This is the mask. And then I know the her that nobody sees that we try to hide. Right.
That kind
Like,
of goes back to theory of mind, right?
mm,
Have you heard of theory of mind?
no.
Simon Baron Cohen, the Sally Ann test, where there's Sally and there's Ann.
Okay.
Sally has a marble and a basket. Ann has a box.
Okay.
Sally puts the marble in the basket and then walks away.
Hmm.
Anne comes over, picks the marble up out of the basket, puts it in the box. Sally comes back. Where do you think Sally looks for the marble?
In the basket.
Okay. For the majority of autistics,
Mm-hmm.
when they're presented that by a neurotypical clinician,
Mm-hmm.
they will say the box
Okay.
because of the wording, because of theory of mind. But then
Can I
if
be
the word
honest? I didn't follow you because I did the thing again.
that's fine.
I wasn't following you very good, so I just gave you an answer because I didn't want to
Let
have
me
to
tell
repeat it.
you, I'm with Sarah.
I love you. Thank you.
I
I
couldn't.
said I was like,
I'm
I've
glad
tried
you were
so
asking her
hard.
and not me. Like, I was,
I tried
But
so
then
hard. I was following you. I
yeah, you're
was. And then I lost it. And then I was like, wait. Yeah,
Sarah.
so I think you said the box,
We
the
need.
box,
I
the
think we need
basket,
medication at this point. Like, what?
the basket.
Yeah.
but
Anyway,
then
so sorry. But yes.
when they're given a third option,
Hmm.
when they're like, or is the marble in your pocket? Then they can accurately identify where Sally will look for the marble once they
Okay.
have that third option. So
Mm,
I think that's kind of where we're at as autistics is if we're presented with just like two options, depending on the wording or our perspective and everything, we're going to get it wrong. But if we
yeah.
have that third option,
Hmm.
we can kind of fill in the blank.
Okay. Yeah. That does make sense. Yeah.
What accommodations do you need on a given
Oh,
day?
um, I really need a lot of support like from my husband when I like in transitioning in between tasks and stuff. I need breaks and like I need like time to readjust. I need time to like think about what I'm doing next instead of going right into it. Um so I give myself a lot of breaks throughout the day or I'll ask for somebody to help me so that I can have a break in between tasks too. I will take a break. So like if I'm doing laundry for like a while and then I need to do something else. Like I can't just go do something else. I have to stop and not do anything right now because then I have to relieve myself of demands for a little bit to not feel suffocated. It's like I don't just need a break. It's because the demand that I put on myself is making me feel suffocated and I can only withstand it for so long. Then I have to get away from that. And then I have to like think about what I would be able to place back on myself to do next. And sometimes I have to readjust it because like the dishes is too fucking much. But I can go through the mail stack real quick. Like, and I'll have to readjust what I'm doing sometimes. So like have plans of the day and then I don't have the spoons to execute the plan and it has to be changed. Um, I wear noise canceling headphones a lot because the environment is overstimulating and I can hear everything. So if the kids are talking, the TV's on, the dinner's cooking, the sink's running, like everything's going at the same time. It's like a lot of times too, I didn't realize before my diagnosis that I would just dissociate and continue to operate through those moments instead of accommodating myself, which then led to burnout because it's not, it's adding up without me realizing it, kind of thing, or it would lead to a meltdown or a shutdown. Um,
I like how you mentioned the different amount of spoons for different activities.
oh yeah,
I recently finished the audiobook version of this,
nice. Love
um,
that.
which was called the Autistic Burnout Recovery, was the audiobook version format. And she talks about how there's spoon theory, where we have a certain amount of spoons for the day,
Mhm.
but then there's another level to that where while we may not have enough spoons to say do the dishes, but we do something smaller, like maybe sweep up a piece of garbage. We have the spoons for
Right.
that.
Right.
Or like you were saying, going through the mail or
And
whatever.
sometimes it is something as small as I'm on the porch and I'm going to carry this coffee mug in with me that I left out here. And then I'm going to be like, well, at least that coffee mug's in the sink now and not on the porch, you know? Um but yeah, it can be the spoons are real. Other accommodations I'm trying to think of, like I definitely have day and it depends, everything depends on if I'm in burnout or not too and if, a lot of things depend on accommodations wise. But yeah, I mean, and then following my routines, like doing things the way that I do them, and everybody kind of like being a part of that, is them accommodating me in a way. So yeah.
So I do have a bunch of questions here. I think I got like four more questions. I'll only do one more because we're
Okay.
coming up on the 2 hour point.
Okay.
Um, but I'll wait and see if there's anything Stephanie wants to ask first. Stephanie, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. No, I think you've got great questions. You came prepared.
Okay. How do you think schools and universities should approach neurodivergence, whether it be in practice and or education?
Wow, what a loaded question. I actually put my children in public school this year for the first time. They're 9 and 7. They were homeschooled slash unschooled their whole lives. And we did unschooling philosophy for a reason, because I feel like it really fits the neurodivergent brain. We let them learn, I let them learn in practical ways. We would learn fractions through baking. We would learn counting money by going to the store with $5 and purchasing an item and figuring out what whatever it would be. We counted bugs outside. We would do subtraction and addition with like anything we found. We would go learn how to, and all kinds of places like, children's museum, science museum, blah, blah. But trying to let them learn in unique, creative ways, because they are not workbook kids. They are not sit down kids. They're just not. They don't retain learning about the immune system by reading a book about it, or even sometimes by listening. They are not going to learn. But if they're watching a YouTube video where this person made a Minecraft world that you can go inside down the throat and explore all of the organs and what they do. My
Son
kid
and
was
I
like,
are the
"Mom, did you know
exact
that our
same
stomachs
way.
have acid and that it blah blah blah?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but." So, the way that they learn, definitely, like, and I'm, again, that's why I said I'm not a mom that judges, because my spoons, I couldn't do it anymore as much as I wanted to. And that's another reason why th- this is a disability, because that's not what I wanted to do. Um, because they are having all the struggles I knew we would have. But again, there's positives and negatives everywhere, and there's a lot of things that we're getting out of school that we didn't have before, that I love and very am excited about, and that they're very excited about. I have been a huge advocate with their teachers. I've had to explain their neurodivergence to their teachers, especially my daughter's PDA. Um, the teacher did not understand why. When we first got to school, she would tell my daughter, the school was like a big square, all the hallways, like the hallways a square, and then so the whole building is a big square anyway. And her classroom, she needed to like walk to the right to go to the bathroom in a quicker way. And she told her to walk to the right, but my daughter chose to go left, because she had to, or she would have felt suffocated. And in her PDA brain, it's perfectly okay for her to take the other route. So she would take the other route. But that looks like defiance. And so there's a lot of things that I had to explain, that afterwards they were like, okay, yeah, because she's not a defiant kid. She is not, she's really not. Um, we're all goody two shoe people pleasers. So it doesn't make sense when we have these moments of like, that was out of character, or that was like, that doesn't match this or that, without the context of where her nervous system is. It doesn't make any sense. That's why it's a disability. Um, so schools, the reason I was like really doing the homeschool and unschool thing too is because the school system's never had reformation. It's been the same from the get-go. And I don't love the worker bee mentality um, that schools produce. And so I really, and I struggle with that too with them because they are not very good. Like they're not bad kids, but they don't just like fall right in line either. So yeah, I don't know. It's a sensitive topic, but it's also like, again, every parent has to do what they have to do. And I think that there's a lot that I hope to do in the future with the school system. I would love to have conversations with like teachers about neurodivergence and especially about high masking autism in kids because their kids, their masks are still being developed, but they're actually still, but they're also all already there, you know? And I can see in my kids when they're masking sometimes. And so that's like, there's so many things as a parent that you wish that you could just like protect them, block them from, like they never will have to experience because you're going to get it under it and ahead of it. And then, but that's not real life.
Yeah, I had to
So
get
they
out of that
definitely have
mindset.
struggles, but yeah.
Yeah, that was so hard. That was so relatable. Just like, and it takes over you and it becomes overwhelming to try to, like, so I say still jokingly a lot, I want to put him back in my belly.
Yeah. You were
Yeah.
easier in there.
I like how you
Yeah.
mentioned that your son learns more on like YouTube and stuff, or your
Oh yeah.
kids learn. That is how I got through undergrad, crash course all the way. I don't learn from books.
Yeah.
I learn from video formats
Yeah.
and from
Especially if you have
filming.
ADHD, you have to reread the same sentence over and over
Yes.
and over again. And I would read the same paragraph 5 times and not be able to retain it. So,
And I like how you mentioned unschooling.
mhm.
There's a creator on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, Torin Wolf. I don't know if you've seen his
Oh,
videos.
yeah. I love Torn.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I've been following him for the longest time, and
Yeah.
I would love to get that whole family on here and talk to them,
That whole
which
family is fantastic.
I'm glad Serenity created a TikTok and Instagram account because I would feel so weird contacting Torin when he's only 15.
Right.
So I sent an email to Serenity.
Yeah.
Hopefully she sees it and it doesn't go into the spam folder or whatever. But
Yeah. They are a
they,
fantastic
yeah,
account, though. Yeah. Fantastic family.
and they do a lot of the unschooling stuff. I
Yeah.
don't think Torrin's ever been to a public school.
Oh, that's awesome. I don't think I realized that, though, about them. So that's pretty cool. I like that. I can tell, though, that Torin, like, has that makes sense. He lives that philosophy. Like, he's definitely so awesome. So
So we're coming to the end. It's been about 2 hours, which I think is the longest interview I've ever done.
I'm a good talker. Sorry.
It's fine. It's fine.
I
I
love to
I
chat,
I could talk all day if my wife wasn't upstairs waiting for me.
right?
But we have our end of the day routine where
Mm-hmm.
after a certain time we go and we just relax and watch. Here lately, we've been watching Dexter and House.
Nice.
I would like to see a crossover between those two, by the way.
That'd be interesting for sure.
Stephanie, is there anything you would like to add? Any questions or anything?
No, I think this was very even informative for me. I appreciate you, Sarah, allowing
Yeah.
yourself to be vulnerable and sharing all the, things that even were helpful for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll come back and chat anytime. This was so fun.
Yes,
Oh
I'm
I
following you on
love it.
TikTok.
Oh,
Yeah.
fun. I'll follow.
Shannon
Well,
told me that's
Send
where
me
you
a
guys met.
message so I can follow you back.
Okay,
Yeah. Send me a
sounds
message
good.
so
speaking
I can
of
follow you back.
which, where can
Mhm.
viewers find you on TikTok?
Oh, it's my at is Sarah FEL47, all lowercase.
And you do a lot of autism
Yeah.
content
Talk
on
about
there, talking
autism and
about your
neurodivergence.
life, and
Mhm.
that's how I stumbled upon you was just through the
Yeah.
homepage.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I have
thank-
another one I just started. I have like 1,500 followers on there. It's brand new. But I talk about my special interests over there, my herbalism and homesteading and everything that I do, crystals and stuff. So there's another one. But yeah, and it's fun. I love it. And it's been amazing to like find the community on there because like I said, so many, it's funny how many of our experiences are just so similar or all the
Mhm.
same.
I want to know your
Seriously.
secret. Just how did you get so many followers on both your channels? I have been
I
at
don't
this
know.
for like 2 years,
Oh, I've been
and
at it for a
I haven't
long
e-
time.
I haven't even
Mhm.
breached 1,000 yet.
Oh, I don't have a secret. I don't know. Um, I don't know. Definitely like I'm an educator. I'm not an influencer at all. So there's like a huge difference in like the type of that type of content. You know what I mean? So I definitely feel like for TikTok, a tip is that I really feel like TikTok wants to be the next search engine. They want people to search on TikTok instead of Google.
Yeah.
And so anything that you can put on there that is informative that people would search is going to help you get more reach. So if you look on TikTok, you can search creator search insights, and that will pop up something that you can like it'll show you what people are searching for in your niche, what they're typing in, and then you can make sure that you create videos that say or that have on screen those catchphrases or those words that people are searching for, and the algorithm will push it more. So there's one tip for you, is to look
Thank you.
on creator search
Oh,
insights.
she did her research.
See, I've been doing
That's
all the
one tip
research
for
on
you.
YouTube, but I haven't done much on TikTok.
Yeah, so I don't
Yes,
know, and I
I've
don't know
seen those
anything outside of TikTok
videos.
because I've never done anything else. I don't do YouTube yet or anything. So I've
Mhm.
literally made the account and haven't posted anything yet. So I'm just on TikTok right now. But so that's the only thing that that's the only modality that I know anything about. But yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us, taking the
Thanks for
time out of
having
your
me. This was
day.
so fun. And again, I'll do
Yeah,
it any other time. So
I would love to have you back. I'm planning on doing some more roundtable discussions. I know this one was more um, semi-structured with questions and everything, and I'm looking forward to doing more roundtable discussions where everybody asks each other questions and
yeah, I love that.
just
Yeah.
discussions.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That'd be cool.
Count me in.
Yeah.
all right, all right.
Well, thank you so much.